You're listening to the Dudes and Dads Podcast, a show dedicated to helping men be better dudes and dads by building community through meaningful conversation and storytelling. And now, here are your hosts, Joel DeMott and Andy Lehman.
Hey, welcome back, guys. We are rocking a new episode here, and we have our new soundboard. We want to thank all of the people who generously supported us.
Oh, my goodness. You're so wonderful, people.
You rock. Hey, we love you guys because you guys helped us get this new soundboard, and it makes my life a whole lot easier.
Andy is in soundboard heaven over here, guys. If you're hearing or picking up like he's just got a little extra pop in his step, well, that's because of our lovely Rodecaster Pro soundboard sitting right across the table from myself.
It is, and it's a beautiful piece of equipment.
It's shiny and sparkly, and it has multicolored lights on it, which that's about all I can say about it because it's not my gig. But boy, oh boy, when it came in the mail, Andy sent me a picture. He did a little like unwrapping exercise, and boy, oh boy, I felt the magic all the way through my text message.
Yeah. So, anyways, welcome back, Joel. I feel like it's been a long time since we've been here in the studio
It
chatting.
does feel like a little while, Andy. I shouldn't make note. This is episode 15.
It is.
And at 15, you get your learner's permit. You're permitted to drive with a responsible older adult. So I feel like we've really crossed a threshold here. I think between the two of us, there's one responsible adult in this room. And so now we're given the keys to further podcasting, to drive on down the road. I don't know how far this metaphor will go, but nevertheless, episode 15, we're glad to be here with you all.
Well, welcome back. Before we get too much further into this this crazy show and this metaphor, we are going to do a what's
brewing.
All right. So with that, Joel, I'm going to ask you the question. What is brewing today, man?
Well, since we're recording extra late tonight, mostly because I don't know how to operate technology and amongst other reasons, we are enjoying the delightful Menno tea. Lemonade mint tea, Andy.
It's good.
Yeah, it's refreshing. I like it. And it's not nearly the caffeine kick as some of the other. I was considering bringing the Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee along tonight.
I would not sleep if you did that.
You would not be.
Do that.
You'd start to feel tired right about the time that you started work in the morning.
Right.
And that's a no-go.
Not good. So anyways, but I'm going to ask you, so we're actually both brewing that, or not brewing, we're both drinking that same thing.
Yes.
But I want to ask you the question here. We decided we were going to use this segment to ask a little bit more of a life question. What is brewing in life? So Joel, what is brewing?
Yeah, what is brewing in life? So we are right now, I think, I'm watching my boys, so my two eldest boys, so Aaron, who is going to be 10 next month, I'm just watching him I'm having these moments, Andy, here's what it is. I'm having these moments where you're like, my kid is getting older, and maybe some of your parents understand what I'm saying when you're just like watching your kid do normal stuff in the day, but you're kind of sitting there like observing them, and it's just it hits you that they're not little anymore, and that they're just getting older, and they're getting everything that comes with that in their personalities, how they interact with you. And I'm just having it's not like a life crisis or anything, but it's just taking those moments captive and really paying attention to what's going on with my kids. I mean, during the weeks right now, we've got Mondays and Thursdays for Aaron, our soccer practice. Then we have church on Wednesday nights, and then Josiah is swimming, is in competitive swimming, and so he's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday nights with that. Now, thank goodness the soccer field and the aquatic center are only like a mile apart from each other,
So you can just almost
it's like boom boom back,
yeah.
Whatever. But just to watch my boys kind of go off and do kind of doing their own thing, and just watching them grow and trying in the midst of those weekly rhythms that we have of getting kids
Mhm.
where they got to go and to do the things that they got to do and whatever, but then also being present in that. Because I think I just fall very much into this I'm not like a list, check it off the list kind of person necessarily, but during the week when it comes to like getting everybody where they got to go, I fall into that very quickly.
Okay.
It's just like, okay, like today it was, we're gonna pick them up from school, so they stay after school for Happy Day Club, which is this children's evangelism ministry thing. So it's like, okay, pick them up, get them home, have them get their stuff around, get to practice, go pick up Molly because she was at Grandma Carla's today, and then bring her back, and then get someone to do it. And the only thing I forgot was at the very end of it all that Aaron was still at soccer practice, and Jackie called me. Now she got him on time and
So
everything.
you forgot him. is
But
what
I
you're
was
saying.
like, oh, right, forgot to figure out who was getting him back home. So, but all that to say, when you're in that mode, and I know there's plenty of you that understand that, like this, like when you're in that mode of getting them where they need to go and all of that, really trying to approach it from, not losing sight of the fact that they too are in a growth and maturing process as they're learning all these things. And so I don't know if it's like an existential, just like I'm having this weird kind of melancholy feeling about it, all of it. But, I'm just trying to enjoy watching my kids grow up as best as I can, and having memories in the midst of kind of the normal everyday stuff. I also had this other conclusion. Aaron is in 4th grade this year. He's going to be 10. And for me personally, right about 4th grade is where I start remembering a lot more stuff about my childhood. That was just me personally, but like I can remember like 4th grade on a lot more memories about that than everything prior. So now I also have this thing of like, he's starting to remember stuff. So I should like do my best not to scar him and have him remember terrible things or whatever. So that's what's brewing, and that's what's been going on in my head. It's what I've been thinking about the last few days here.
Gotcha. Yeah, and for me, it's similar. We're since the end of last couple months. It's just been like go for us, and that doesn't flow real well with our family. So for us, it's been trying to just take everything. We've been to Riley Hospital the last week twice now. So we had once with Micah, once with Hattie, just as a checkup for her cleft stuff. And so we've been, just running. And so, for us, it's one of those things where, we're just looking forward to hopefully this winter being a little bit less, as busy as it is right now.
Andy, I do want to, just to put one kind of bright, shiny point here at the end of this week. We will be getting together, both of our families, around a fire, and it's going to be magic.
And s'mores.
S'mores. Oh, the fall time has hit. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's funny though, when I put that our meeting, our get together in my calendar, I just put it as Layman Palooza, and then I completely forgot what that meant.
So you're like, hey.
Well, Jackie looked at it on my schedule, and she's like, Layman Palooza.
What the heck is that?
What is going on? And I'm like, I know it's in there for a reason. I just can't remember why. And then God bless your wife. She was like, oh, hey, are we still getting together Friday? I'm like, that was it. That was the thing. So I'm looking forward to it.
So, Joel, we do not have a live guest with us tonight, but we are going to be chatting, just the two of us, about some important topics, specifically one that's going to kind of hit home for me. Because I have a teenager now. You will soon, but I have
one.
Oh
boy, you're in the mix now.
I have one now, and actually, soon. And then I will shortly have another one here after a little while, because Eli will be also a teenager. So we are gonna be chatting. Joel, what are we chatting about tonight?
So, Andy, tonight the conversation is really about this this process and I'm going to get a little scientific here because as a youth pastor, youth worker, there's just so much research that's done on our kids or about our kids and their stages of development, both in faith formation and kind of even how their brains form and all of that in the adolescent years. And so we got to pay attention to those things because it does affect the on the ground reality of how we parent our kids, what we're watching
Sure.
for, what we're paying close attention to. So tonight, we're going to talk about this phenomenon. It's the we use the term individuation, but really it is, as we would experience it as parents, those early teen years or the teen years, and it could be maybe slightly before. I mean, it really depends on the kid, but where you start to experience that pushback from your kids, where
Okay.
they are looking to distance themselves from you a little bit.
So what you're saying is that time when kids are like, yeah, you're not really like, parents aren't cool. Like, I don't want to be with you.
And not as smart as
they used to think.
as they used to think they were.
My kids listen to this podcast, so
you guys, your father's a genius. So
I didn't even pay him to say that.
I know that was for free. I see it with as a youth pastor, I see it because I'm all I have my eldest is not even quite 10 yet, but I in conversations with parents, there's always a conversation at some point along the journey, the adolescent journey as we're going middle school, high school, where parents have some sort of conversation with me about, hey, my kid they're not engaging with me the way that they previously were. And we don't think anything has changed at home. We think we're still parenting pretty much the same way, that we're still kind of doing this together. But all of a sudden, like, they're not sharing what they used to share with me. They're a little more critical of our opinion. They are less likely to agree with us on some things. And what do we do about that? And they're not kind of there's a closeness that doesn't seem like it's there anymore.
Right. And I mean, I know that, I can't really specifically say that happened. For me, again, I was a teenager. So for me, like,
Yeah.
Mom, if you're listening, tell me if I did that. Because, I'm sure I probably did. But
Sure.
I just wanted to, like, I don't remember specifically doing that as a teenager. So I don't know that your teenagers even realize that they're necessarily doing that. But yeah.
Right. And all they know is that they are most youth would describe it, most adolescents would describe it as they're trying to figure out what they believe about stuff. And part of that, navigating that or figuring that out, is pushing back against you. And it's a weird way. It's a little of a clunky way to kind of navigate what their own beliefs are and things like that. But we got on this topic because the good people over at Fuller Youth Institute, if you're trying to successfully parent your child, particularly from a faith perspective, Fuller Youth Institute is a really, really great resource. They have blogs and all kinds of resources for parents and book materials and all that sort of thing. But I just came across this post here this last week that I just, as I sent it over to you, Andy, where I was like, this is something I think worth talking about. But
Right.
they, in this particular article, they quote, so there's this author, I'm not familiar with the author, but it's, I haven't read the book either, but it's probably worth checking out. Lisa DeMoore, we'll put this in the show notes. You can put a link to this particular article, but Lisa DeMoore, she wrote this book, Untangled. So the book is specifically focused for teenage girls, but let me just tell you that this particular instance, this thing we're talking about, yes, teenage girls and definitely teenage boys
Right.
at the same time. But she writes this book, Untangled, guiding teenage girls through the 7 transitions into adulthood. But then they just share this little quote here that your daughter, so we'll just say your child, needs a wall to swim to. And they need you to be a wall that can withstand their coming and going. Some parents feel too hurt by their swimmers. She's kind of using the swimmer metaphor. And if you're swimming laps and
You hit the wall.
yeah, you got to push off you get to the wall and you push back off of it. It looks like you're going to the wall.
Then you flip and turn and push.
And turn and push, right? So she says that some parents feel too hurt by their swimmers. They take too personally their child's rejections and choose to make themselves unavailable to avoid going through it again. Because we just know that our kids are going to do that more than once. But being unavailable comes at a cost. Their children are left without a wall to swim to and must navigate choppy and sometimes dangerous waters all on their own. So she is writing about girls, but this
applies for both
for
girls
both,
and
yeah.
boys. Yeah.
Yep. And so, as parents and youth leaders, kids need us to be a wall, and this is the whole thing about the imagery of us as parents and youth leaders being this wall for kids, a wall of support that doesn't withdraw or abandon them, even when kids withdraw from us, often hurting us in the process. They need us to be the adult who stays steady. So
Let's chat about this whole
let's
metaphor.
unpack
Right.
the being the wall.
There's a lot that is said in that statement that I think is super important. And I think the first thing, Joel, I would say that we need to anticipate that our kids will push off. Like it is as a swimmer, and again, I've never done competitive swimming.
Nor do I want to.
Right. So maybe we should talk to your son about this. Cause
I don't know what I love the fact that Josiah wants to swim, but when I see them out there, I'm like, this looks exhausting.
Right. So we're going to say, and again, we are quoting, like, we're unpacking this whole thing from the blog at Fuller Institute. So we're not, if you want to, Fuller Youth Institute. So if you want to check it out, we'll link to that in our show notes. But the first point of this is anticipate that kids will push off.
Yep.
So again, as an adult, you are going to get your pushback from your kid.
Yeah.
As a swimmer, you have to do that in order to succeed.
Right.
You push off so that you can get kind of a head start. I would assume, because I'm not actually a swimmer.
Yeah.
But
to stay in the race.
Right. You push off.
And they practice the push off. They practice their turns. This is the other thing I've been watching. I'm able to actually speak to this because I was literally watching in swim practice the other day. Just to kind of give you the image that we're talking about here, that they, in order to succeed at swimming, the push off, coming to the wall and turning around and going the other way, like that's a skill that has to be developed in and of itself.
Right. I mean, I'm sure that your son, the very first time he did it, like, probably did not do that well at all.
They don't even know where the wall is, let
No.
alone in trying to reach it and to feel it out. And so, as with most things with adolescence, the whole process is super clunky. It just is awkward and weird.
Yeah.
And they know it, and that's when they get all emotional about it. And we stand, if we're not secure, if we have not number one mentally and emotionally prepared ourselves for the push off, we ourselves will feel injured and hurt.
Right. And again, I mean, we're saying this, like, you've not personally experienced this necessarily as the adult. I mean, as a parent, because your kids are still younger, but you, as a youth leader, I'm sure that you've experienced the same thing where your kids are, really close to you in junior high, but then in high school, it's like, whoa, where did that go? Like,
and it feels like it feels like they're kind of, and depending on the student and over the time. I mean, as I look back over the last, I first started working with youth in 2003, so a little while ago. But
when you were just a baby,
a mere lad. But I think back to those times, and it's like your relationship it would vacillate. Like there'd be really, really strong times where it was like they were looking to you for everything, and then all of a sudden it was like your wisdom was no longer needed or whatever, and it can feel very disorienting if you just have not decided in your mind that yes, there's going to be pushback. This is part of the process.
Right. And again, I think that this happens not just with parents, but also youth leaders, youth workers, like teachers, things like that. Like these kids are going to, as they get older, they're going to realize that they're more independent, that they're trying to establish that independence. And so that, it takes them, they do this to distance, become more independent.
So Andy, I'm just wondering, you've got a 13-year-old son, and I'm wondering how you have felt this in your own home.
I mean, I've definitely felt that he's been more independent, I'd say. And it's interesting because, like, as a dad, that's a little bit hard, like, where he's, like, wanting less and less to be around you and more to, like, do his own thing. Like, where he's like, yes, I can go, I would say I probably felt this the most, like, let's say at the fair this year.
Yeah.
My kids are old enough this year, especially now, even with the other two, so not Micah, but Eli and Reagan. Like, because Mike is old enough, we've said to them this year at the fair, hey, you can walk around the fair. You can, you don't need to necessarily be here with us in the barn at all times. We don't want to walk around, but feel more than free to go walk around and do stuff because you're old enough. We trust you more. So yeah, I've definitely seen that, but I also have seen where he runs to you at where they run to you at certain points, but then again at some other points it's like not so much. But again, I mean he is 13, so he's at that age, yeah, where his friends are important to him,
Right.
And so yeah, I'd say I've definitely felt that.
Do you think? Yeah, these are times where I wish our wives were in here every once in a while. Do you think Julie has felt it differently? I mean, she's with him more during the day. The kind of has that day contact with teaching and all of that.
Yeah, and I think so, and I think I would say it also comes where the attitude is kind of more of just an attitude, a general expressed attitude, and probably more for her. She gets that probably because again, she's with him most of the time, and so yeah, where we give this attitude, this pushback, like I know better than you do, like things like that. So that's where it comes across for us, where the attitude is showing that he thinks he knows more than we do,
which is like super frustrating. And yeah, so I think that's it's a perfectly normal thing. It's just like you really do stand to take it super personally yourself. And so I think that's just the piece in this process is just anticipate that's going to happen. This is not about you, because it's not about you.
No, it's not. I mean,
at all, really.
Well, like we've established here, this happens to almost every kid. Like
Yep.
you're gonna have this with any kid that you are raising or around. Like they're gonna get to this point where they're pushing back, and again, I'm sure that I did it. I don't remember doing it because I didn't actively be like, "Hey, mom, I'm pushing away from you."
Dear mom and dad, I decided to push back
from.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think that I actively did that, but again, it's something that's going to happen with every kid.
Yep. And then the second thing here is we're talking about, the pushing off the wall process is one of the things that's super helpful as parents is just to simply rally your own support. And so the question is that we want to ask is like just who in your life is the wall that you need, that we need, so that you can be a wall of support for young people. For your kid or for whoever, what other youth, that you may be pouring into. And because this is like it, as the old saying goes, it absolutely takes a village. Like this is not, parenting is not it's not a solo sport here.
Absolutely. No.
Like this is not something to be taken, just, like, oh, I'm going to do it myself. And that's why you got to have have to have other parents around you.
Oh, absolutely.
And sometimes I know Andy, we've probably done this a few times where it's just like we sit around the table with each other around a campfire, whatever it might be,
like we're gonna do this weekend,
and we tell our kids to go away so that we can talk about them for a while. And sometimes it is just a matter of, here's what I'm experiencing. And I need someone else to tell me that it's okay to think it's tough.
Right.
And yes.
Yes, it is tough. It's going to stick.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, too, like, this is important for us to have, I'm thinking back in the episode that we had with Dustin Carr.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you've not checked that out, go back and check it out. We'll link it in this episode. But he talks in there about the need to have a tribe of people around your son or daughter that you're raising up that can kind of speak truth into their life. And I think that's where this falls in a lot too, because those people, if they've from young, when your kids are young, have been there and have been able to like speak into the kids' lives. Like I would say, like you are for our kids,
right?
Where you're around a lot, you're friends with us. They're they see you and they talk to you just as much. And I think that's important for like from what Dustin was saying. Have those guys around, because as your kids kind of push back from you, they may not be pushing back as much from those other 5 people.
Yeah, like there's been a time, and I'm holding you guys accountable to do this for my own child when he starts this way. But there's been a few times where I can tell where I'm like when I'm coming up to pick Molly at the end of the day or whatever, and you know, maybe one of your kids is giving either you or Julie a hard time. And there's been a couple times where I have taken it upon myself to say, "Hey, your mom, knock it off." Well, and not much nicer than this, but hey, knock it off. And the response to me is different than it is to you.
Oh yeah,
and as it would be with my kids as well.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, the other adult in my life that's not mom and dad is talking. It's different. And I think that's the thing of like, obviously we love each other's kids well enough, and I think our kids know this. Like, there's like a respect and understanding there. But it's like, sometimes, and this is going to be true for all of our kids, sometimes there are going to be other parents and other adults that are going to get more airtime than you do.
And again, that I think is going to be okay, because especially if it's somebody that you're tracking with, somebody that you respect as a parent, to say, I trust you to speak into my kid's life. I know your values. I know what you hold to be true. And so I think that's okay if for a time period.
Yep.
Those adults can speak into your kid's life.
Yep. I do get concerned for. Yeah, I just get concerned for families where mom and dad are the only adult voice that's regularly speaking, and where there's not where kids are not experiencing the kind of love and support from other families as well, because it's got to be an earned thing. Like, that's the other thing. You do have to have a rhythm of interaction with other kids. It's not just because you show up as an adult is not, especially culturally anymore, is not the thing that earns you the ability to be heard.
No.
It's time, it's attention, it's intentionality. So, yes, the question is, who are the other people that can help you be the wall that can support you?
Well, yeah.
So, number 3.
Be aware of your own anger and self-protection. This is one where I think I struggle with a lot. So that's going to be like where you kind of move away from your kids when they tick you off, when they're going to make you mad.
And they'll find the exactly right time to do it, Andy. They're gonna pick the end of the day after you've had a rough day at work, and they're just gonna push that last button. It's just like a hair trigger reaction away from places you don't want to go.
Right, and like, you need to be careful for that, because I think you see that's gonna make them move away.
Yep.
If they know that when you're gonna be angry at them when they're pushing into you or away from you, those type of things. And I think it's easy to do that, especially as a dad, where, we want to have control. We want to have respect. And when our kids disrespect us, I know for me, it's immediately go to anger. That's where I go.
Right.
And it's not okay.
Right. And I'm trying to think how long. This was a little while ago, but I started to realize that when I was going to confront my kids, and I would walk up, physically walk up close to them or whatever, I'm not maybe Josiah more than anybody, but there would be this cower in fear response. They would
gotcha, yeah.
And I'm I want my kids to respect me. Some would say, joking, I want my kids to fear me. I'm not a big fan of my kids fearing me.
No.
There's a difference between respect and fear. And fear does not promote love, does not promote a relationship. But I began to realize that too, just like you're saying. I was going to a place of anger because I couldn't control a situation. I was, when things seemed out of control, I was trying to bring control through just a kind of a forcible presence, and it wasn't bringing my children to me. It was pushing them farther away, which is the interesting thing, right? I'm trying to bring them in close so that they listen and respond, but my behavior is accomplishing the opposite thing.
Well, and I think too, sometimes this is caused by unresolved anger or unresolved issues in our own life.
Yep.
So same, we may have issues again, at work, or, this is a great instance. This is something that happened today. We were driving home from Riley, and Hattie was the only one with us, but I got an email, something from work comes in, and I read it, and immediately it was an issue that I had already thought I resolved, and it came back up, work, like a work issue, and I immediately got angry. Like, it was like I was frustrated. I started getting angry about the GPS on my phone driving. We were trying to find a place, and I missed a couple turns, and I blamed it on the GPS, and then all of a sudden I realized, with the help of Julie, like I was like, I apologize for that. I'm like, that's wrong. And then I said, she said, I think it actually happened when you got that email from work. Like, you immediately, like, your attitude changed. And I think that happens a lot, where, like, I come home, and even though I've had the 20-minute drive home from work, I've not processed that completely. I've not separated that. I get home, there's toys in the yard, and I am like, this is annoying. Like, things that don't really matter, but they come in and they blow up, and that's gonna drive kids away from me. They're gonna not want to swim to the wall at all if that's the case.
Yeah. I may or may not have thrown a scooter across the yard the other day for a similar purpose. Came home, not in a great place, stuff all over the driveway. It's just, and it's like, when I reflect on some of those moments of my own anger and kind of trying to, build some sort of protective wall around myself, I realized that, I'm not available to my kids, and so, ultimately, guys, I think control is the big thing. When we feel out of control, we try to get it back. And the way in which we do that oftentimes really reflects what are kind of our inner world is, where it's at. And I like you, Andy. I'm trying to come from a place of, like, I want to be in this for all the right reasons. I want to take an approach that that draws my children to me as much as possible, because, like we've said, they're already going to want to push back enough as it is. But I still need to be a solid place where they can come to, even if they are going to say, thanks.
Thanks, but no thanks.
But no thanks. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, finally, we've kind of touched on this, Andy, but I think kind of item number 4, just to say we want to help teenagers have multiple walls, not just you.
Right. And I think that, like, if you're involved in a church community, having them involved in youth group, if they're involved in a sporting thing, have them involved so that the coach can speak into their life. Like, we've heard of lots of men who later in life say, hey, my coach was a great person for me. Like, he encouraged me to do this. He was kind of there for me, as well as youth leaders. Last year, I'm a youth leader for, last year it was the 8th grade boys, and all of my boys were like, can you guys just come up to high school with me? They wanted me to move to high school because they liked, the fact that I was their wall and kind of the place that stood there for them. And so I said, unfortunately, no, I got to stand up for the 6th graders. So
that's right. I got to take these 6th grade, which, by the way, sometimes it feels like the distance between a 6th grader and an 8th grader is like from here to the moon. So God bless you.
Right. Hey, no, I got a great group of 6th graders this year. They're good dudes. They are very good dudes. But I think that these are all really good things, Joel, to remember, because, again, I think as we experience this, where the kids move away from us, especially as parents, that feel it kind of hurts, because it's like, hey, for the last 12, 13, whatever years, I was your all. Everything that I said, you believed. Everything that I sheltered you, I protected you, and now you're starting to push back, where you're moving away from me, and I'm not as cool as I used to be. And I think that's easy as a parent to get hurt while doing that. We can take that personally. And
we've got a lot we have a lot invested, Andy.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a lot of ourselves, from everything from biologically to emotionally and everything else. Invested in each and every one of our kids, and yet our kids are not they're not our source of value, and that's
absolutely
that's the other thing. And I can't say it enough. I can't say it. I'll probably say it multiple times ongoing. your child's particular, their behavior, their reactions against you is not a reflection necessarily on who you are.
Right.
And now I will say sometimes where I see things happening with kids, you're out in public and you see a kid. I saw this not too long ago at a thing I was at. This is for much younger kids, but it's like you see a kid behaving a certain way, and then you're watching their parent and how they're interacting with it. And you're like, okay,
I can see why
makes
you're.
sense. This makes sense why this issue.
Your dad. I can totally see why
Sure.
you're acting like this.
Now, friends. By the way, if I'm out with you in public and we've all got a bunch of kids, just don't worry. I'm not secretly judging you or anything. I just this one particular instance, I just have a clear memory of that. But we just have to make sure that we understand that when it comes to parenting, like we can do our absolute best in all of these things. It's not a hard and fast guarantee. But what we can do is within ourselves, make sure that we understand our kids are ultimately loaned to us.
Right.
We are given a managerial role for a time. And the rest is up to them and what really God would ultimately do with them. What the plans that He has for them are the important thing. And
right, we're just here to steward them in the right direction until they're old enough to. Yeah.
Right, and so and it can go a number of different ways, and there can be seasons where it doesn't feel like anything is clear or certain, and everything feels real mixed up. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay. Andy, I think back, and I know so many parents identify with this phenomenon, with the wall phenomenon, with the pushback phenomenon. We had a parent meeting with both our middle school and high school parents just a few weeks ago, and when you're, I know as a public speaker, you've got people when it gets real quiet in the room, and the quietest it was in that room was when I was kind of describing this phenomenon. When I was saying that we as a youth program, I was saying we as a youth program want to partner with families because we know there will come a time where all of a sudden there seems like there's this arm's distance between you and your kid, and maybe that distance will be there with you guys, but it doesn't have to be there with other people as well. And it was like dead silent in the room for that moment, and I had this sense of like people, like I know I have these ideas in my head as in that we're talking about all these things in hypotheticals, but man, in that moment with all those parents, I had 60-some parents sitting in that room. It was very real.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, and I'm like, oh, that's right. We are actually speaking to a real thing that is happening and that so many of us are struggling through. And so we just want to, as always, be an encouragement to you guys to say, be the wall, let them push off, continue to be available, don't make it about you.
Right.
And, you know what? That's all you can do, guys. That's all you can do.
Well, and I think going back to that swimming analogy, and this is my very final point, is in swimming, if you're doing laps, you get to the end, you push off, you go to the other end, you push off, you go back,
yes,
you push off. Like there's always this like pushing back off the wall on both ends of the swimming pool. There we go. I was thinking track, like field. Like,
so good.
Yeah, no. But like you're pushing back on both ends of both of those ends. So you need to have at the other end someone that they can push off of. And they're going to come back and they're probably going to push off of you again.
Yep. It can be a challenging time, guys, but it's worth every minute of it that you stay engaged and that you don't give up and that you find support and that you just allow people to continue to speak into this process with you. So that being said, guys, if this is maybe striking a chord with any of you parents out there, or maybe you've got some push-off stories that you want to share, we're always open to, we love the feedback, and send us an email over at dudesanddadspodcast@gmail.com. Would love to hear your thoughts and reflections on this episode.
You know what else you can do? We love to hear your voice. So you can take out that memo app on your phone.
Ooh.
Record it.
Yes.
Email it to dudesanddadspodcast@gmail.com.
That's beautiful. We should tell people to do this all the time.
We should.
That way we can put them, but maybe we'll put them on the show.
Yes. Well, guys, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. Again, if you have any feedback, we would love to hear that. Send us an email, dudesanddadspodcast@gmail.com. We want to thank, again, our Patreon supporters. If you're not a Patreon, head over to dudesanddadspodcast.com/support. We streamed live this episode tonight for our Patreons.
Oh, boy.
Of $5 and more. So we got a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and it was fun, and you got to see kind of how we process this stuff. So
good stuff.
Anyways, guys, grace and peace.
Grace and peace.